What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Geeky Investor, where stocks talk and we translate. Today, we're going to be talking about Tesla's semi-truck, which is the truck that was initially hyped in 2017 to drive significant growth for Tesla's business. And now we're in 2026. We're at the point of, will this truck really be able to make it or not? And are the hypes and specs that are announced really coming in fruition or not? So this is what we're going to be talking about in today's video, and how will that really impact Tesla's Tesla's revenues and profits, and will that really affect the stock price on the long term? So first of all, before I proceed any further, let's really look at how the Tesla Semi is really like. Now, as you can see, it really has a very nice glass, kind of like a 180 degrees glass that is really different from other traditional trucks. That's a nice thing to see when you're the driver of the truck. And this is a different point of view from inside the Tesla Semi. Now, as you can see, the guy really here is coming up, and I'll just be kind of fast forwarding just a bit to see and appreciate how it looks from the inside. As you can see, it only holds one driver or one passenger. But then within the truck itself, you can see these large different screens with this steering wheel. I don't know if the steering wheel will be removed later on when the robotaxi capabilities really improve, or the full self-driving capabilities improve to level 5, as we used to say. Now, let's see what are the initial specs that were initially announced, and then how that compares to what we're hearing from these different sources in 2026. So first of all, this is a graph that I've compiled right here that shows a lot of like a summary of what was announced in 2017. So we had 300-mile range versus 500-mile range. The 300-mile was $150,000, and the 500 would cost $180,000. Now, of course, with a towing power of 82,000 pounds, and if we really compare to what was announced in 2026, these unofficial announcements, what kind of these different leaks from different sources, we can see that this 325 miles, or there is, this 300 mile basically, and the 500 mile. So the 300 from 150, it's now sitting at 250,000, and the long range truck from 500 miles, still 500 miles, but from 180,000 now to 290,000 expected price. Now, this is an increase of more than $100,000, when it comes to the announcements as compared to the announcements. Now, this is a significant increase of $100,000, which is almost 60% of the initial price, an increase of 60%. Now, does this really make sense or not? Well, before we say and commit them to making this really large mistake, now let's see, with inflation adjustment for this 180,000, it gets adjusted for inflation to $242,000. Now, as you can see, from 180 to 242, that's as if you're talking about this price in 2026 prices. Now, as you can see, the difference now is almost only 50,000. Of course, 50,000 US dollars is still a significant number, or 20%. That's a significant number, although it's not as significant as 100,000 or 60% price increase. Now, of course, the other things are more or less the same as those leaks are saying, which is 82,000 pounds for the power, as I said, was for the old one. Now, as for the production timeline, it was initially unveiled. So Tesla semi-truck was initially unveiled in 2017 with the initial specs and targets, and then over time, we can see in 2022, PepsiCo was the first company to really made a contract with Tesla to kind of get this Tesla semi-trucks to do a pilot phase study to see if this truck is really benefiting or delivering an overall net profit or overall net increase in an increase in their efficiency for PepsiCo. And then in 2023, if I recall correctly, then what was added was DHL, and then in 2024 it was almost Uber Freight. So let's see what was said right here. So although the initial announcement was 2017, which is 9 years ago, we really are hopeful that the Tesla semi-truck will be delivered in 2026 as they are promising us. And we're going to touch on in just a moment how many cars is expected to be produced in 2026, and then over time how many cars and what's their expected revenues and profits, and then how would that affect the stock. Now, we know that already tested a pilot study with PepsiCo and DHL in 2022 or 2023 with major questions around charging infrastructure and mega charger network readiness. Now, the idea here, this is a excuse me, just a moment. So this is a big issue right here, because with the Tesla Semi, the idea is you have a very large battery pack, and this large battery pack, although you have these supercharger networks for the Tesla cars and the Tesla vehicles, however, they are not sufficient and their speed is not fast enough to kind of fill all of this large battery pack for Tesla Semi, because if you're gonna, charge with the same speed as compared to those regular cars, then you're expected to stay for 4 to 5 hours or a couple of hours to charge the Tesla semi-truck. Now, of course, this is not feasible and this is not, practical unless you're staying overnight and you're charging at home. Maybe that's a possibility. However, that's not practical for all the solutions, because, for example, let's say you have Amazon. They promise customers to deliver on the same day. There are some products that are kind of sensitive to be delivered on the same day. So it's really essential for the Tesla semi-truck to be able to charge throughout their way, even if you have 500-mile range, because some trips are just very long. And now Tesla is really expected to kind of focus more towards these very long trips, whereby this 500-mile range is not sufficient to reach your target destination. And then at that place, maybe overnight you can charge with a regular charger. However, what they are trying to do is they are trying to build an infrastructure for the mega charger network. However, this is a potential weakness that Tesla semi-trucks have so far, because there is still no large infrastructure or mega charging infrastructure for Tesla semi-trucks. They're big and large battery packs. Now, of course, the US government and California specifically is trying to aid and enhance the development of such things. So they added $165 million incentives for a Tesla Semi project, and then there was the partnership with Uber Freight, which adds additional discounts for fleet operators. Now, let's see what I was promising you, which is the near-term impact and the forecast of the revenue, and for the long term. Now, if we really okay, so I will just adjust. Okay, so I believe I believe this is more clear right now. So as you can see with this Tesla Semi financial impact and outlook, we can see on the left side, this is the revenue which is expected for 2026. Now, an average of 10,000 Tesla semi-trucks is expected to be produced for 2026. I don't know if really they will be able to achieve that. I doubt this one. However, if let's say they achieve 10,000 units in 2026 with an average price of 300,000, that's a revenue of $3 billion. Now, 300,000 is not something that doesn't make sense, because, as we said, Tesla Semi, the 500-mile range, long range truck is expected to be sold at around $300,000. Now, the competitors are selling the same thing at $435,000, which is, this electric trucks that are available in the market right now. So they are kind of undercutting them by 33% or $145,000, which is really a significant price cut. Now, of course, over time, those other competitors will be able to lower their prices. However, as of right now, these are the current prices and these are the expected price cuts. Now, with the $3 billion revenue, you can expect, let's say, 10% profit margin, net profit margin, so that's 300 million. You can assume a price to earnings ratio of, let's say, 30. So 300 million multiplied by 30, that's a 9 billion increase in the share price, or the market cap, sorry, the market cap. So that's one way you could look at it. That's for 2026. And then for the future outlook, maybe that's 2 to 3 years forward, their target is to reach 50,000 units per year, which is really produced from the Nevada factory, Nevada Gigafactory. So 50,000 units per year. Now, I don't think they, or let's just, for, kind of being conservative sake, let's say that they are able to produce only 30 to 35,000 units in, let's say, 2028, 2029. Well, then you're looking at, let's say, 30,000 with 300,000 revenue per unit. That's almost $9 billion of revenue just coming from the Tesla Semi in 2028 or 2029. Now, again, assume a profit margin of, let's say, 30%, a profit margin of, let's say, 10%. Then you're looking at 900 million, let's say 1 billion of net profit. Let's say a PE of 30 for that. That could increase the market cap of around 30 billion dollars. That's only coming directly from vehicle sale or the truck sale. Now, you can have these other things like infotainment within the truck. You can also have full self-driving capabilities that can be added later on. So many other things and services that can be really sold, and that would increase the profit margins, and then that would increase the final profit number, and then which would translate into the share price increase. Now, so the overall impact is, with the Tesla in 2025, they are making $95 billion of revenue in 2025. So an increase of 3 billion in 2026 or 2027, that's a very small chunk. So 3 out of 95 billion or 100 billion, that's 3 to 4% of total revenue increase. However, around 10 billion revenue, that's an increase of 10 to 12 or to 13%. That's a nice profit to really be coming from only one product, which is really a significant growth driver. Now, if we go back and really look at what was written here, so with current Tesla revenue at 95 billion, Semi could add roughly 10% growth, and these other points that we just raised just a moment ago. Now, I wanted to highlight just a small thing here. You guys can really appreciate, so just appreciate how these different semis,
this is going to get more powertrains or batteries. It's absolutely insane to see the vertical integration. At Giga Nevada, you see a ton of Tesla semis going back and forth from Sparks, Nevada to Fremont, hauling batteries and powertrains. This is going to get more powertrains or batteries. It's absolutely insane to see the vertical integration.
Exactly. I like the vertical integration right there. Now, one last thing that I wanted to show before, just ending the video right here. If you really look at Tesla Semi, it is really able to drive into different weathers. So for example, you can see with the -20 Fahrenheit, you can see with this really very cold, extremely cold weather, you can see that the Tesla Semi is still able to deliver with these 3 different motors up to 60 miles per hour speed, and this 80,000 pounds of power and towing power. That's something nice. We will see if Tesla will be able to deliver on the promises, and let me know if you guys think these expectations and these forecasts really make sense, and if you agree that 2026 they will be able, or if you disagree that they will not be able to deliver on this 10,000 units in 2026 for Tesla Semi. My personal opinion, I don't think they will be able to do that. Maybe a run rate of 10,000 by the end of 2026. However, not by 2026, they will be able to deliver 10,000 units of Tesla Semi. And I'll see you in our next video.